In the industrial society, we had more increase of the muscle power. It was giving us engines and make us stronger and fly and all these things. Now, this is crucial. Now we're getting more brain power. Not our brain, but we're getting other brains. In fact, what that means, it's an intelligence explosion. Think about that in a second. If we can get unlimited intelligence, this will change everything. Today, if you're a student, I bet you money 90% of students look up everything on ChatGPT right before they do anything. And you can do a really amazing stuff, compare the prices of utilities, compare, the places where you live, the crime zone, the rates. I mean, mind-boggling. We define artificial intelligence as information and data turned into knowledge. This is Demis Hassabis from DeepMind. If we define AI as knowledge that was made by machines, then we can say that machines have machine knowledge. They're learning. Machine knowledge is not like human knowledge because they don't have emotions, they don't have understanding, they don't have empathy, but they have unlimited facts. If you're looking at technical tasks, machines are superior. I mean, those are just yes or no scenarios. You don't make a judgment when you're talking about grid maintenance. It's a factual thing. Maybe sometimes you have to make priority decisions, yes. But this is about factual things. So the real thing that's happening right now with AI is that we're focusing on intelligent assistance, IA. That's 95% of where all the good things are, where your things I'll show in a second. But we're sort of graduating from this, from the IA, to the next part, which is really about this idea of moving on towards more general machines. And then OpenAI and Microsoft and others are pushing to create a general intelligence. General intelligence will be a machine that can surpass humans in the majority of economically valuable tasks. That's what OpenAI wants to build, right? In other words, they're building a digital human to be better, cheaper, faster than humans. That's the goal. I mean, it sounds like science fiction, right? That's the goal. And part of that is what's called digital labor, which is an employee that's a robot, an agent. Right? And I always say, my work, that we should be very careful to go beyond this point. Right? Because if we go here, we may have a machine that has an IQ of 50,000. And we could not survive that. A machine with an IQ of 50,000 would not pay any attention to us. It's like if you go to the forest and you're stepping over 1,000 ants, you kill 1,000 ants, you don't even know. Doesn't matter because they're just ants. This is the hard part, I think, when we're talking about AI. It's really a general purpose technology. When we look back in history, the printing press was a general purpose technology. Changed the whole world. Took 200 years for the printing press to go all over Europe first and then the rest of the world. 200 years. How long did AI take? Well, it took 70 years to ChatGPT. And then basically now we have 1 billion users in less than 12 months. So it's general purpose. That means good for everything. Now we have people inventing what's called the AI operating system. This should be of keen interest to you because a big part of the AI operating system, infrastructure, energy, human intelligence, and AI. So Microsoft calls this the next generation company that uses agent, right? It's basically a frontier company is what Microsoft says. Now we arrive at this point where we say, okay, we have tools of AI. And now we're getting to companions like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a companion for younger people, like a friend. Do we want an AI that becomes the master, that basically manipulates us? We already know this from social media, right? This is kind of what happens on social media now. We become the master. So AI is a great tool, but not a very good companion. There's already about 50 companies who offer AI therapy. I'm not joking. You think I'm joking. This is real, right? It's a therapist That's an AI. So this is what's happening first with augmentation. So we have AI that allows us to be better with fingers and legs and thinking. It augments us. Translation, research, documents, finding, augmenting maybe our brain. So we put the AI to work and we can think better, maybe faster. I use it all the time. And I got to tell you, when I'm researching your company or anything, my speed is 5x now. But I'm still limited by my understanding because I still have to make something from it. But if you're, for example, in the legal business, let's say you have a big lawsuit about real estate, okay? You have 8,000 pages of PDFs. Yeah, you're going to need a long time to read 8,000 pages. Now you can put it into Google Notebook and ask questions. But sorry, it take about 8 seconds to upload the document and review it. This is the roadmap for AI. So basically, the practical use of AI is about cognification, which means having good data that gives you analytics where you can make better decisions faster. So you need to have good data for that to work. Clearly, bad data, bad decisions. But it's essentially becoming, where the whole system becomes smart. The grid is smart, the R&D is smart, the connectivity is smart, the marketing is smart. Augmentation means languages, translation, research, documents, creating visuals, creating slide decks, augmenting my power. Virtualization means I can wear a virtuality headset, not the Apple one, but simple one, and I can go through the data like this. Remember that Tom Cruise in Minority Report? And just pull the data like this. If you're a lawyer or a judge and you wear this helmet, you're 100x. Automation, most of that today doesn't work. It's very hard to automate because it means that all of those things have to be done first. Just an example, as you can see, I showed you earlier the Minority Report scene. Now you can have maybe a supply chain would look like this in 2035, where we have this complete control over everything that goes on in a virtual environment. Whether that would save people, I think quite likely we need less people. Would make you about 100 times as efficient. How quickly will that come about? I think we need lots of those pieces before that works. But here's the important part, I think, for you. I think really it's more about augmentation. Helping us to get the job done, to understand things, to research, to translate, to get things done quicker. I often sit in the taxi when I'm on the way to a speech and I have a last minute idea. So I go to ChatGPT and I say, well, how about, if this country had this or whatever, what would happen? And ChatGPT gives me an answer where I say, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I can use that. Just like 5 seconds. Well, that's augmentation. But, you may get addicted to it. So that's another story, right? We need to really not get too heavy on this idea. Today, many companies around the world, they want to essentially get rid of as many people as possible, right, to put it brutally. A lot of big companies are saying, if we can do this and technology does the job, the routine, we can get rid of many people and margin goes up. That will not work, and it's an illusion. Why? Because when we do this, we generate new things to work on. And only if your work is total routine, like call center, this is where it works. Or the warehouse, the Amazon warehouse. But generally, I think automation will not lead to having less people, which should not be our policy. I think our policy should be not replacing humans, but enabling humans to do better. Right? Not to create a human like this. Essentially has to become technology. This concept that we become useless because technology is better is of course, it could happen eventually. This is what OpenAI wants to do. I think it's a very bad idea. In principle, it is possible. Not now, but not a very good target, I think, for us to think about this. So really what we need to look at is say, okay, what jobs are routine? Monkey work, commodity work, filing, researching, checking, organizing, and we can have the machine do the work. I mean, I do that every day. I find something that I can have the machine do, as long as I can keep in charge and I know what it is. I mean, this is the reality. What's happening is that jobs are going digital. This is what's happening all around us, and it's this graduation from humans doing routines to machines doing routines. This is where the efficiency comes in, the productivity, the increased productivity. But efficiency in itself is not a very good goal. Efficiency is just a goal for the CFO to save. And that's a good goal, but we need to have another goal behind efficiency, which is innovation. Efficiency by itself is, well, it ends. Eventually it ends. You can't be overly efficient and do all this. So this will bring us to digital labor. This is where every large organization is going. Technologies that do what humans used to do. Routine. AI agents that can mimic. I'll show some examples shortly. This is a talk by Sundar Pichai from Google, talking about this new Gemini app.
Let me show you what we are excited about in the Gemini app. We call it agent mode. Say you want to find an apartment for you and 2 roommates in Austin. You've each got a budget of $1,200 a month. You want a washer dryer or at least a laundromat nearby. Normally, you'd have to spend a lot of time scrolling through endless listings. Using agent mode, the Gemini app goes to work behind the scenes. It finds listings from sites like Zillow that match your criteria and uses Project Mariner when needed to adjust very specific filters. If there's an apartment you want to check out, Gemini uses MCP to access the listings and even schedule a tour on your behalf.
So this technology called MSC, which allows you to log into websites with your name as the agent. So imagine if you're looking for renewable energy to do a deal in Athens, now we can use an agent to do that for you, to talk to your agent about making a deal. Right? And that's where we are going in commerce. Right? Digital labor, it performs cognitive work much quicker, it has a huge economic footprint, and it's unlimited. So at least part of every organization is going to entertain digital labor. As I said earlier, this kind of idea of the cloud. Legal work, right? Thomson Reuters has a thing called the co-counsel that large companies are now using. And the co-counsel can be like your sidekick. I did a speaking event for Thomson Reuters last year, and I got to look behind the scenes a little bit. It's not a miracle machine. It's kind of like Google Maps. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. But this is only the beginning. The great thing about co-counsel is that it uses internal data. So it's not the internet data. So it's much cleaner in the results, right? So this is only one example. You're going to see these things for network maintenance, for HR, to be assisted. And the question is, how much of that do we like? How much of that do we want? Where do we go? And what it does to our work is this. Okay, this is the pyramid of our work. We're knowledge workers, right? We're not factory workers. Most of us are knowledge workers. This is our pyramid. So we start here, information and data, knowledge, tacit, quiet knowledge, understanding, wisdom, purpose, consciousness, blah, 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 all that stuff on top. Now AI comes and basically takes that lower piece. I mean, this is what's happening. Machines can have data and information and limited knowledge endlessly. And I can ask for that on my wristwatch. I can make videos, I can make movies, I can make a presentation, bad-looking presentation. I can do all that stuff now using machine. I would say it's not all machine turf, but clearly this is where we are going. So for us, we need to get better here. That means empathy, compassion, understanding, imagination, planning, visionary work, communication, ephemeral things, EQ. And really what that means for us, we have to move over to understand technology and understand humanity. That's kind of a paradox. We have to understand technology because it will do this. We have to be able to judge it. Like, for example, the black box problem, we don't know why the AI is saying that we should do this. That's not good, because if we keep going like this with a black box, then we're inside the box, and we become useless. So more human, and improving communication, getting better at all of those things. I asked ChatGPT why futurists still matter. Because I have noticed in my work, I've been doing this for 23 years, why there's a change in what the customer wants. And that change has been with all of my colleagues. And here's the answer. ChatGPT and Gemini and all the other things, they can give you a very good story about the future. You can go to the app and you can say, give me a future of Switzerland. And then you can go deeper and deeper. You can make images and slides and videos. It's the cognitive part. So ChatGPT can do all of that stuff, the data. That's what I used to do, because there was no ChatGPT. And now what I do now is I present the data and I make a story, which is what I always used to do, but now even more. That's the difference. Focus on human-only tasks. Focus on the tasks that only we can do. Everything else is up for discussion. Fundamental change to how we train people, what we want them to do, where they are going, and so on. So here's some of the tasks that machines will do: translate, summarize, research, edit. Not all of that is commodity work, of course. Very important, keep the human in the loop. We should not expect to be more efficient and be too lazy to check the results. The worst thing that can happen is that you work somewhere and then you use the AI to say, okay, it's like that, and you don't really bother to check. You lose your control. You wouldn't want that. So AI is like this. It's a power tool. I always compare to a nail gun. You know, when you're working in construction, you have a hammer and you have nails. It would take you all day to finish the place with a hammer and a nail. But if you have a nail gun, you shoot the nails 100 times as fast. But you can kill yourself or others. And AI is like this. It's a nail gun. So I'm very happy to have a nail gun, but I do shoot myself in the foot. I have to fix the damage. This is what happens when you have powerful tools. So be careful with a nail gun, not to shoot yourself in the foot too much. But the bottom line is like this: if you work like a robot will take your job. This has always been true, but it's especially true now, because AI can do this.